Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. It's nice to have you with us once again. Tonight, we'll be talking about an article I wrote about 6 years ago about depression seen through the eyes of the different sun signs. But before I get to that, I wanted to announce the schedule because the upcoming schedule is starting to form and starting to get full. It's going to be pretty interesting, I think. Next week will be an astro show, which means some astrology subject. The following week, September 13th, will be revisited by Stephen Poplin, the wonderful regressionist who works with some of the best in the world, a hypnotic regressionist. He's coming to us from Iowa, and he's been on the show before. And he's just terrific. He's just released his second book on life in between lives and what happens to us as a soul in between lives. So his second book, he'll be promoting that when he gets on the 13th, and you'll find that it's really part two of the same story, just elongated. Then September 20, we have another astrology week. September 27th, we will have the Reverend Kim Wilson joining us out of Maine or out of Texas, depending on where she is. She's quite the expert on A Course in Miracles. That's going to be a very basic week to explain to people what the Course in Miracles is and what it is not, and try to get any of the myths out of the way. But she's very good at it. She's a very good teacher. She has a very down-to-earth style, which I think you'll enjoy. Then I'm really excited for our 100th anniversary on October 4th to be inviting and the opportunity to have as a guest Nick Arandes from South America. He's Puerto Rican. Nick is the author of one of the most influential books I've ever read called What Happens When You Let God, or What Happens When You Let Go. And it's a magnificent book that's all about letting go of everything and letting God do all the work. It's very down to earth. He explains how you do it. The guy's just brilliant. Brilliant. And I'm really looking forward and very appreciative that he'll be joining us on October 4. Then October 11 will be another Astro Week. October 18th, I'm making my girlfriend work. She and I, Liza Jane Brown and myself, are going to hold a 10-year anniversary, not right to the day, but talking about 10 years of Pluto in Capricorn. What it meant when we were writing about it in 2005, what it means now, what had happened through the time periods, what we're here to expect, how people are reacting to it, what we saw ahead of time, and we're going to talk a little bit about Eris, since she is on the scene. And Eris, we will be having a special evening with 4 of us talking about Eris coming up sometime in November. I'm still not sure of the 4th person, but we're going to talk a lot about the rise of the divine feminine and the Me Too movement and how real this Eris transit is. She's the new planet out beyond Pluto, one of the planets. So that's what's in store for the next couple months. Tonight is a very difficult subject, talking about depression, because a lot of people to this day argue about whether depression is part of your chemical makeup. Is it you not taking ownership of your life? Are you bringing it on? Is it hereditary? All these different reasons. Is it a disease? Whatever. Well, I'm certainly not in any position to make any declarations because I've studied the issue for many years. I've had it myself. I don't have the answers, but I'm going to give you a look at depression through the sun signs. And remember, once again, we're talking about Aries, the Aries pure sign. Taurus, the Taurus pure sign. You may know a Taurus that's not very much like a Taurus. You may know a Gemini that's not much like a Gemini. That's not what I'm doing. I'm going to be teaching you about my perspective of the strengths and weaknesses of the sun signs. Some signs are more apt to get depressed than others. I'm going to be talking in general about that, and we'll leave plenty of time near the end to address your questions. Okay, it's interesting to me, and I've written an article about this, which I released in tonight's email, if you're on the mailing list. The article I wrote about 12 years ago. I'm sorry, 2012. It's interesting to note that part of the word depression comes from the verb depress, to push something down. But somebody's doing the pushing. Is it your DNA? Is it your mom's memory? Is it your chemical makeup? Is it your habit? What is it? But depression is, for the most part, where you cannot get to your source, where you're not feeling happy. I'm not going to define it, but astrologically, it's very much that the life force is not coming through you and getting expressed in a happy way. You can see people, and I'm sure you've known people all your life who've been depressed all the time, part of the time, feeling blue, feeling moody, etc. So when I say a certain sign does not tend to get depressed like other ones, like I got a lot of flack when I mentioned Sagittarius is one of these signs that doesn't get depressed. And boy, I got the flack from the depressed Sagittarius. What do you mean we don't get depressed? Okay, you get depressed too. I'm not writing across the board. I'm talking about the sign itself. So if you're an Aries and if you're a Taurus and you got 5 planets in Sag, then you're going to apply to the Sagittarian discussion. Remember, natal charts are full of our sun sign plus 5 other signs. 4 or 5 other signs are strongly represented in our natal chart besides our sun sign. Okay? All right. In general, the fire signs do not get depressed as much as other signs. Aries, Sag, Leo. Because fire signs are made of zeal. They're upbeat. They're happy. They're lively. As a matter of fact, they're so lively that they can become arrogant. They can become abrasive if somebody tries to put the fire out. Because they're all about keeping the fire going. Now, I don't understand it because I'm a Capricorn, but I understand it mentally. Okay? And an Aries person, you got to understand very much what is the nature of each sign, which is why that book, The Exquisite Zodiac. What is the nature of each sign? An Aries is excited to go from point A to point B. Period. That doesn't mean their whole life is that simple, but in a lot of ways they want to challenge themselves. They want to be upbeat. Let's go do it. And they cannot stand contradictions. They cannot stand obstacles. They want to go do it. I'm going to go do it. The gas pedal's down. I don't need a brake. Sounds kind of oversimplified, doesn't it? Some of the most depressed people I've ever seen have been Aries. Why? Very simple. Many cases are parents who tried to teach the Aries child to be cautious. You do not teach an Aries to be cautious. You dull their pencil point when you do that. You let them jump, bang their head, and then they learn. They jump, they bang their head, then they learn. Their instinct is the primary thing. If you're a Cancer and you're a Capricorn, oh, honey, you be careful down on the sweet set. You be careful now. Oh, what are you going to do? I've had so many Aries clients who have been very difficult to deal with because they've got this instinct to start jumping and this instinct of, I'm doing something wrong, and they stop themselves. Parents are dead and gone. Well, if your instinct is to jump, you've seen cats jump and they're really good at it. They're magical in the air. That's because their instincts are strong. Aries need to jump first. Don't caution the Aries, you're not doing them any favor. Unless other complications in the chart. So almost all the time that an Aries is depressed, it's because they have lost that connection to that spark. Now, of course, they're not all like that. And Aries can have depressive qualities because the parents, what I'm learning through a lot of past life work, is your parents are much less to blame than you think. And in most, what's to blame is your past life, how far you've gotten or haven't gotten. But Aries is about let them be childlike, let them jump. Sometimes they act like know-it-alls. Let them act like know-it-alls and let them do what they're doing. Don't stop their fire from moving. Don't stop the fire from coming out of the engine. If you're a Virgo and you want action and you want it to add up, be properly expressed. If you're an Aquarian and you're trying to think of the highest, most effective way to do something, that's not what an Aries is. They want to go, they go. They want to go, they go. That's why they get depressed. Something's gotten in the way. They're driving with their brakes on. So that's the key to dealing with an Aries. Sometimes it can be complex. You remember the story I told you about the Aries woman in St. Louis? She had the problem with the burner in her furnace. She couldn't get the, what's it called?
Pilot light.
She couldn't get the pilot light to stay on in her furnace. The Aries woman couldn't get the pilot light to stay on. Once she and I worked through, the parents had overly suppressed her, and she got done dealing with that. Pilot light came on, no problem. She couldn't get her lights down because she was so used to putting it out herself because she was trained to do that. One of the problems with astrology is you're going to end up getting your answers. Don't open the astrological door unless you want the door open. Because when it's open, you're going to start getting your answers. And a whole lot of people want, I want the answer, but help me shut that door again. A lot of people are, I'm depressed, I don't want to talk about it, I want to stay depressed. You don't believe me? A lot of people won't trade that depression. It's just habitual. It's comforting, even though it sucks. It's not simple, very complex. It can be something that you need to deal with lots of compassion with. Tauruses. Taurus is usually not a sign that gets too depressed. Usually not. They can be. Usually Taurus is usually really, really easy going because they're Venusian somewhat. They take care of their needs. They got their sandwich. They've done their job. They're in their easy chair. Their life is simple. They live in a smaller world. Once they take care of their needs, they're fine. They're not obsessed about your needs because they just don't think that way. They're about taking care of their needs. Okay. Usually Taurus is very steady as she goes. Usually steady as she goes. They can be very pleasant to be around. Another type of Taurus can be very gruff. Archie Bunker. Well, that's because his world's collapsed on him because he's so narrow-minded, he's so closed-minded that everything he sees is a threat because it requires him to open his brain and he's not going to do it. And it's very common with a Taurus mindset that everybody else is wrong. Everybody else is nuts. I don't know why they're nuts, but they're nuts. They're crazy. I'm the normal one. That can be dangerous. If Tauruses do get depressed, it's usually because they're not taking any chances. They're not really breathing life in. They're not really exploring. They're too habitual. the pleasantness of being steady versus the dread of being closed down. The Archie Bunker, you can see it. I mean, it's pretty obvious the Archie Bunker character is always depressed. You don't see him happy. And what's he do to his wife? He's not going to let her be happy. Stifle yourself. Right? Most people are changing. Many people are really getting with it. They're realizing that what's going on outside of them is really going on inside. But there's still enough people that haven't gotten that yet. But that's usually the problem with Taurus, is because they're really better off in a smaller world, but the smaller world can end up choking themselves. You have to be careful for that. Geminis. Usually the Geminis are not depressed. Most of the time they're not. And if they are, they can be really, really critical, especially the females. Sharp-mouthed females. Cut you up one side, down the other. If a Gemini is depressed, it's usually because they've come from a really bad background. Gemini is a very hard sign to be because they do not have access to their emotions readily. Gemini is not a sign of emotion. It's an intellectual sign. And you can see it with our president, who always looks depressed. He's always spiteful, ready to kill somebody, you know. But that's because he's not readily in touch with his flowing emotions. Now, a lot of Geminis will gloss over it. They'll appear to be upbeat, but there's an underlying theme always going on of depression. And if you go there with them, they don't like it. You should be very cautious before you start to dig into a Gemini's inability to get to their emotions. Be very notified, be very careful, because when you tread in areas that they don't want you there, they will cut you up verbally. Okay? Very careful. Usually they're not depressed because they're so interested in so many things. They're a young sign, they're playful. I've seen plenty of surveys, and the number 1 and 2 favorite signs of all the signs from the surveys, believe it or not, the number 1 and 2 favorite signs are Geminis and Libras. The two very talkative, very social signs. Both the air signs, they're talkative. They keep on going, they keep on discussing, and I don't think it will shock you very much at all to know that the number 2 on the bottom, the 2 most unfavored signs, just to be around, Cancer and Capricorn. And I'm not surprised by that list at all. They have their own reasons. So you move on into the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a sign that's very prone to depression because Cancer is born to be very dependent, usually. I'm taking it as a lesson that they're born that way, and it's not a fault. It's just part of the zodiac. And I really, truly believe that the rest of the zodiac is here to take care of the little kids that are Cancer. The little boy in Tom Cruise, the little boy in Tom Hanks, the little boy in Robin Williams, the little girl in Gilda Radner. They're very childlike. And that's not a problem. That's who they are. But they're very sensitive. They have a very hard charge, which is to develop emotions. And it's hard to do. Cancer is eaten alive with the sense of, I've got to take care of me. And that's where the soul gets that very critical trait from. We have to have it. But the problem comes in when it becomes, I'm not interested in anything except taking care of me. Then it becomes very selfish. Then nobody wants to help them. It's a tough turning point. In my opinion, there's no tougher turning point in the entire zodiac, and I should know about this subject. There's no tougher turning point in the entire zodiac other than the fourth and fifth signs, and that's Cancer and Leo. I've got plenty of reasons. Cancers can be very upbeat. They can be very happy and childlike and fiery. Depends on where their moon is and where their Venus is. The moon placement in a Cancer is incredibly important. It's like having a second sun sign. So you often see Cancers with a moon in Sag, and it's a wonderful combination. Because you get the worry wart with Cancer, and you got to worry about nothing with Sag. You got the downbeat, I've got to be careful with Cancer, and you got the upbeat, worry about nothing with Sag. I've seen a lot of them, it's wonderful. But if you have a Cancer with a moon in Capricorn, or you have a Cancer with a moon in Scorpio, you got your work to do. So the way you deal with a Cancer who is depressed is you have to give them support because they just need it. They need to have your support. They need extra amounts of support compared to others. Yes, they need white glove treatment. They just do. Now, if it gets to be dominating the entire family, then you got a lunar problem. Then it's very severe. Then it's another story. Leos, real interesting subject. Leos are usually not depressed because they're fixed fire. They're a fixed fire sign. The flame is always burning. But you have to ask yourself, is it real? Is it real? Because right under the skin of all Leos is a Cancer. So a lot of times it could be an act, and worse, it could be an act where they're fooling themselves and they think they're happy. That's the real problem. So Leos are usually very upbeat, not depressed, they don't understand it, and there's nothing worse in the world when you're depressed and somebody comes along and says, cheer up! You want to slap them. We don't know why people get depressed. But if someone's depressed every time you're around them, I really think you're going to probably start spending less time with them. Just the nature of life. Leos are built with fire. They're sustained by being fixed. So usually what they do is they come up with fire. Now, we see that a lot with the president because he's got Mars and Leo rising. And what I'm trying to say is I don't agree with how he does stuff, but that's why he fights back. That's why he doesn't let it. He will not turn his flame down. You mess with him, the fire's coming up. That's where it comes from. I don't like how he does it. A real good example is the Leo before him. Obama was very leonine. And he had his head held high, and he took the high road all the time. A lot of people thought it was arrogance. And a lot of the time, it was just him. He was locking himself into a posture to remember to take the high road. Because remember, we're not black, and he was. We can't understand what it's like. But Obama was a really good example of the upbeat nature of Leo. Now, it just happens that Mr. Obama had a moon in Gemini, so that explains a little bit of the emotional nature. Now, boy, ain't this a story. Woo! Virgo. Virgos, thou shalt not be depressed. Not allowed to be. Being raised by a Virgo father and mother, you try to be downbeat and sit there at the table all glum with your lower lip hanging down, that ain't gonna last long. What are you moaning about? What are you moaning about? Get back on that horse. So it's very admirable that they don't let themselves be depressed, but it's also a shame because they just suppress their feelings commonly and they write them off. So a lot of times a Virgo is depressed, but they've overridden it with this going to work, I'm going to work. It's like one of the seven dwarfs. I'm going to work, I'm going to work, I'm going to work, going to work. And they're really convinced that their work report is all that matters in life. And boy, they're wrong. So a Virgo can be quite depressed underneath the cover. But usually they're not, because they are upbeat. They got work to do. They put on a happy face. They're usually very pleasant to work with, unless they're your boss and they're too damn picky, and then you got a problem. But that's a very tough position, because Virgos do not deal well with emotions. And you can deal with all the fire you want to, but if you want to have real fire and real happiness, it's got to come from your emotions. It doesn't just come from fire. To be clear, Liza and I have talked a lot about this, writing that book. Fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sag. Fire signs are spirited. Fire signs are some of the most spiritual people you'll ever meet, because fire has zest in it, and zest has spirit in it. So it's just amazing. 40 years later, 81 years later, the two of us have 81 years in common of astrology. We're still learning about fire and air. Don't ever beat yourself up because you don't know this stuff. It takes years and years and years of keep studying the archetypal levels. Okay. So the Virgos are usually okay, but the overall question is, how are they treating their emotional nature? And a lot of Virgos, especially the men, a lot of them treat emotions as if they are weaknesses. And they're not weaknesses. And almost all problems with Virgos are self-ascribed emotional stuffing. As Rick comes back today from the upper GI doctor to take a look at the upper GI tract. So I'll let you know how that one goes. Almost all my readings, hello Wally, Waldo, almost all my readings are Virgo women, and the number one physical problem of all the zodiac is Virgos with their intestinal problems. I can say that clearly. Not able to flow. Stop it. Not able to flow. Stop it. Critical. Stop it. It's critical. Stop it. Fix it. Stop it. Fix it. So that's why Virgo is a tough sign. It's a hard sign to be. We owe an awful lot to Virgos. They get a lot of work done for the zodiac. Jumping into the second half of the zodiac, we look at the sign of Libra. Libras are usually upbeat. Libra is a rather magical sign. I think it's got a lot to do with being ruled by Venus, but I think it might have to do with being co-ruled by Eris. I don't know what it is. Libras have a lucky streak. They land on their feet. They're usually pleasant. I think one of the reasons that they're pleasant, Libras can't stand unpleasant situations. When something goes unpleasant in the crowd, in the discussion, the Libra's the one to stand up and give a toast and try to change the subject, get everybody feeling good again. Libras truly don't like disharmony. They really don't like unhappiness. I have very, very seldom seen depressed Libras. Maybe you have, and you know the rest of the chart can really color that in. Certainly Saturn placements, Scorpio placements. Libras are pretty upbeat. They're very competitive. One day when I was younger, I counted everybody in the major leagues. 700 some players. The most players in the major leagues are Libras, which really surprised me. And it led me to thinking and observing how competitive they are. They love to argue, they love to compete, have a good argument, and they like Libras. Libra. Baseball is a thinking man's game. There's a lot going on. I think they attracted to that. But I was really surprised by that. Now, if a Libra is depressed, it's usually because something's going south in the relationship. And that's a problem right there. Why isn't it that they're depressed because something's going wrong with them? Why is it that they're going depressed because there's something wrong in the relationship? Automatically, that tells you there's a lack of self, and too much of the self is defined by the relationship, which is where true depression comes in. So you have to study it hard. But in a lot of ways, it's really near the top of the list of signs that are seldom depressed. Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign that's very often depressed. Very often. Not always. The upbeat ones who can maintain it are glorious, wonderful, strong people. But almost every time that a Scorpio is depressed, it's because of self-loathing. Scorpios require a lot from themselves. They require nothing but strength. They can't stand weakness. I wrote in the chapter on Scorpio, the number one thing is, can they get past self-loathing and replace it with self-compassion? And if they can do that, there's a lot of hope. And if they can't do it, then get the hell out. Get away from them. Get away from these Scorpios that hate themselves. Get away, because they're going to turn it on you. They're going to turn it on you. They're going to find your weak spot on purpose, and they're going to twist it. They will. Got nothing to do with you. It's a projection. But they're going to go looking for weakness so they can stab it or burn it. I can understand where this comes from. It comes from a very passionate desire for God and purity, but it can just get out of hand. I used to think that these self-loathing qualities came about in direct proportion to the number of planets that you have in Scorpio. And I think it is pretty true. The more planets you have there, the more tendency you have towards self-cruelty. But I've also learned, mind-blowing, this is the sign that can get past stuff. Put them down in the gutter and rub their noses in the gutter, and this sign will beat you and come back smiling. This is the one sign that has more reboundability than any other sign. I can't even explain it. There's a place deep inside the Scorpio that's very powerful. It's called Pluto. That when pissed off can do incredible things. That's why one of its symbols is the phoenix, rising from the ashes. Self-preservation. Self-preservation. I don't think it's self-preservation, no. Because ultimately, I think Scorpio is the first sign. It's number 8. I think it's the first sign that starts to really think about others. I think Scorpio wants to have a pure white linen relationship with God. It's a lot like Virgo. You gave me this pure life, and by God, I'm going to keep it that way. That's why so many Virgos marry Scorpios. I don't think it's so much self-preservation. I think it can become with the ones who become sick, and they become sick because their compulsions control them. They become vampiristic. Yeah, then it can be definite self-preservation. But I maintain to you it's really self-destruction. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a whole evening, one of these evenings, I'm going to do a whole show on death wishes. Because death wishes are much more common than people think. Death wish brings about disease, accidents, fires, getting shot. it brings about much more trouble than you can realize, because it's really clear if you're an astrologer, and I'm sure if you're a therapist, that the number one problem people have is low self-worth. It's the number one problem. I mean, it comes in many forms, right? But I do want to do a show, after giving a lot of thought to it, on being self-defeating. I know that David Hawkins talked a lot about it in his 50 years of psychiatry in New York City. He said most of his patients came with real issues of death wishes. That's why when I get mad or frustrated and I used to say, oh, F me, I go, no, stop that. Cancel that. Didn't mean it. Because you say it, you're going to get it. I've learned that. As soon as that F sound starts coming out of my lips, no, no, no. I do not want you to beat me up, Mr. Universe, no. Okay, anyhow. Here's where I got in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of trouble with Sagittarius because I wrote the article, and I guess I implied that Sagittarius is the top of the list of not being depressed. Well, first of all, somebody's got to be on the top. And we'll let Waldo speak for this one here. Sagittarius is the sign that does not get depressed as much as the others. There's one guy in northern Indonesia somewhere that's depressed, and he's a Sag. Okay, one guy, two of them. So some Sagittarians get depressed. Okay, that's because the rest of the chart. It's not because of Jupiter. Jupiter doesn't understand depression. Jupiter, woo, upbeat, woo, fire, dispersing fire, beautiful fire, give out fire. What does that tell you? I'm upbeat, I'm fiery, firecrackers, fireworks for everybody. Who's my example when I talk about Sag in the book? Who's the example I use? Walt Disney. Fire for everybody. Well, there are Sages walking around. Sag invented alcohol. That's what Waldemar says. Now, Waldo, do you know that for a fact? Huh? See, when you're late.
That's why you don't get depressed with.
You don't know what he's talking about. When you're talking to your Sag, the symptom of talking to a Sag is one of your legs will start becoming longer. I knew he was pulling my leg. No, but seriously, their talent is to let things roll off their back. Hey, why worry about it? Hey, what the hell? That's a Sag quality. Now they can get depressed, and you got to remember what's next door to Sagittarius, because in natal charts it's very common to have other planets like Venus and Mars and Mercury in the signs next door to you, and Sagittarius neighbors are not a lot of fun. Capricorn and Scorpio. So the Sag is like bitching about their neighbor all the time. Why don't you loosen up? Why don't you chill out? Take it easy, huh? No, Sag can get depressed, and one of the main reasons Sag does get depressed is Sagittarius is extremely cause-oriented. They don't even get the respect that they should get for being cause-oriented, and they bring it on themselves by being so, what the heck? What the heck? So people take the Sag. What the heck? But Sagittarius can be very depressed because of politics. They can be very depressed by the way people treat each other. They can be very depressed because of the state of our education. They care very deeply about causes. And that's one of the reasons they can be depressed. But I suggest the main reason is that you look at the other planets in the chart. It's not a Sagittarian thing. Now you want to talk about depression. All right, let's talk about Capricorn. Let's talk about the top of the list the people who really did invent alcohol, the Capricorn, all right? Without a doubt, the most depressed sign that there is. My dad was one. I is one. I'm going to tell you where it comes from. Capricorns are built with a very strong sense of duty and responsibility. You cannot shake that. Almost all Capricorns have it. Being dutiful and being responsible doesn't necessarily mean that you're depressed, but a lot of times the weight of the world resting on your shoulders makes you feel that way. You're overly responsible. But where I think the problem comes in is but Capricorn is enamored with this sense at the archetypal level of making sure. Like Virgo is fix it, Capricorn is making sure. You see this problem here, let's make sure. Well, I can't put that out yet, I gotta make sure. Gotta make sure. Gotta make sure. Gotta make sure. Well, when you got that pressure on you all the time, there's not much room for you to be kind of flighty, is there? When you are making sure all the time, what does that say about your feeling about God? The number one problem Capricorns have is they don't trust. And if you can't trust, you can't be happy. Because letting go is based upon trusting. So you're going to let go and it's going to be okay. Capricorns are terrible at it's not going to be okay and working up fears, painting themselves in the corners. I'm not going to BS you. I've studied this a lot, and through the years I have noticed there are not a lot of happy Capricorns around. I don't care what they said, they just aren't. Yeah, you meet some that are just glorious and happy and fun. Yeah, wonderful. But usually Capricorns are so worried about staying inside the box, doing what they should do. There's so much pressure on them that, again, the life force can't get out. The life force has to come out for happiness and non-depression. Where does life force come out? Aries, Leo, Sag, Libra. Leo. That's why those are the signs, and they're at the top of the non-depressed part of the zodiac. What does a Capricorn need to do to become less depressed? That's a very tough question. The number one answer, they need to start trusting. Well, I'll start trusting if you make sure that there'll be money on the table tomorrow and a bunch of lunch meat and my bills are paid. And it doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. Look at the face of Martin Luther King. Does he look happy? Hell no, he didn't look happy. There's a Capricorn face for you. He really put the weight of the world on his shoulders, yes. He was a reverend, yes. He was black, yes. He had people trying to kill him, and they did, yes. All these things are to be seen, but he didn't look very happy. Worry-worn. That's why there's no doubt that the zodiac. The two signs at the top of the list of the most depressed are Cancer and Capricorn. There are happy Cancers, there are happy Capricorns, yes, but not generally. And if you talk with a Capricorn about it, it always comes down to them trusting life, more trust in the ability to let go and just go with the flow, and it'll be okay. And boy, they're going to fight you tooth and nail. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to let go. I got my own fight. I'm a double Capricorn. I know what it's like. I got my own issues dealing with it. Anyhow, it can be done. The next sign is a real good example of an upbeat Capricorn, Aquarius. Aquarians are, I think, seldom depressed. I've seen them, they're depressed, like anybody, but most of the time Aquarians are not depressed. because they are actually so interested in everything in life. Figure this out. This is the sign that cannot understand what it's like to be bored. Who's the most bored? Gemini. Always bored. I'm so bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. Aquarius, total opposite. They're so fascinated with everything, they just get excited to get involved in something, and they usually you don't know who the Aquarians are because they don't tell you who they are because they're off by themselves doing stuff. They get fascinated. They're great organizers, they're great researchers, they're the best friends of the zodiac. They don't need other people like the other 11 signs do. They don't need a relationship like the other 11 signs do. That's probably a great part of it, huh? How much depression is with us because of the relationships not going right? Now, I've had careful consideration. Most astrologers say that when they die, they want to be reborn a Sagittarian. Waldo, I have no idea why they would say that. I would like to be an Aquarian for a lot of reasons. The number one reason is when I read for Aquarians, it is the easiest reading to do because I can talk at any level and they're so interested. They take their mind so seriously. That's why I love talking to them. My analysis of myself in the past couple of months, I've really realized how Aquarian I am. I'm really Aquarian because I'm born with the sun opposite Uranus. That's why. But what's the Aquarian doing all day? Putting the mental picture together. I think it's safely to say that Rick DiClemente is constantly trying to put the big mental picture together. That's not my Capricorn. That's an Aquarian feature. Okay, but Aquarians can get depressed, and usually, Liza, you comment on this one, since she is one. I think most Aquarians that get depressed because they create such a mental haze. They create such a mental maze in their mind of something that's gone on for so long that they just stir in it and no one else can get into affect it. She's over there thinking.
That could be a way to think about it. I'm going to have to give it a lot of thought. I'll get back to you by next show.
She's going to get back to us by next week. Just give it a lot of thought. Aquarians are usually pretty darn upbeat. They love life. They're very idealistic. They're very honest. But I have seen some that just get so twisted in their brain. Glenn, what's his face?
Greenwald?
No, on the old Fox Network, Glenn.
Beck.
Glenn Beck doesn't look like a real upbeat guy to me, does he?
I think
He's an Aquarian.
We always talk about the mental construct that we always talk about the mental construct that Aquarians build, and I think if one way an Aquarian can become depressed is if they find a flaw in that, or things just don't fit.
Right.
Because it's usually the construct has a lot to do with idealism in there, whether it's a Glenn Beck kind of idealism or like our kind of idealism. So it doesn't. There's no value judgment on the kind of idealism, but we do want things to fit together to be coherent.
That's what I mean, and I think what happens is they can get to a point where a big chunk doesn't fit, and they got a big chasm between great amounts of their brain. One chasm separates this part with that part, and a lot of that is because, here's my theory, a lot of the problem with Aquarian is they think the problem is mental, but the problem is never mental. the problem's emotional. Okay, Aquarians' default is to think that everything can be solved mentally. And we know that the next sign waiting, Pisces, has got all the answers, so to speak. And the answer is in the heart, giving up the brain, answering with the heart. The final sign of Pisces, and we're going to open up the phone lines to you, and we're going to turn off the YouTube. Let me just put this on the screen for people who haven't been with us long. If you'd ever like to join us live on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, just go to this is my website, go to starself.com/unplugged. That will take you to the links that you need to join us any Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Okay, if you can't do it, of course, you know, or most of you should know, that these are tape recorded and put on YouTube the following day on Fridays. This is episode 95, so very proud of that. The final sign of Pisces is very often a sign that's very depressed. Number one, it's a sign that's the hardest one to be. No doubt, it's really hard to be a Pisces. They are given to be a non-self. So how can you be a happy self when your whole instinct is to not be a self? Why do they want to be a non-self? Because they want to get rid of the self, which is the obstacle between them and merging back with the oneness. Very tough sign. We analyze this very closely, heavily in that book, The Exquisite Zodiac. Some Pisces are glorious, they're wonderful, they're happy all the time. Don't try to figure it out. Don't ever try to figure out a Pisces. Because every one you reach inside of, you will find nothing. I don't mean you're empty. Very complex sign. When you reach inside a Pisces, there's nothing there. Why? Because there's everything there. There's nothing there because everything is there. And when there's nothing there, that's what leads to being depressed. A lot of the depression is they have this instinct that not me, I can live for you. I don't live for myself, I don't think about me, I think about you. So they end up causing their own depression because they negate themselves. They get in bad relationships. They let people walk all over them. So it's a dangerous sign, very tough sign. Very tough sign. So anyhow, it can be a wonderful, glorious sign if they can really turn on the true Pisces, which is to get the self in perspective, allow themselves to have an ego, but to live with it in perspective of how do I fit in with all other beings and gods. That's the trick with Pisces. If you've not read The Exquisite Zodiac, I highly recommend that you do, because it's a real statement about the sign of Pisces. Also, I highly recommend that you go to my website, because you can still get the PDF version for free, of which I'm turning off in the next few days. So I've been giving it away over a year, and I'm no longer going to give it away after a couple days from now. So you can get the book, and you can get the Kindle version too. Thank you for joining us at YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow there. Remember, you can always join us through my website, starself.com. And in the coming weeks, in case you just tuned in, we got Stephen Poplin, the regressionist, joining us on the 13th of September. We have on September 27th, Course in Miracles expert, the Reverend Kim Wilson. We have wonderful, our 100th anniversary, October 4th, the tremendous author Nick Arandes, author of the book, What Happens When You Let Go, What Happens When You Let God. Unbelievable book. We have October 18th, Liza and myself talking about the Pluto effect of the last 10 years, crawling through Capricorn. Okay, and then we've been talking about this since 2005. And sometime in November, we're going to be talking about a big Eris story, which is all about the Me Too's and all about the women rising, and all these female authors and experts joining us. I will tell you more about that later. But thank you for joining us on YouTube.